Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about the EU sustainability reporting and CSRD compliance. Just a first question to all of you. Can you hear me well? And you can see our screen as well? You can send a message in the chat box if you wish, please. So let us see here that you can hear us. Yes, okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So my name is Karin Ekberg and I'm the CEO of Leadership and Sustainability. We have our 10 years anniversary this year and we work as consultants in the strategy area and also as verifiers for HIG, BRM, FEM and FSLM and many other programs as well. And with me today I have Sophia Wolf, who is Sustainability Manager in our strategy team, and she will soon take over and present one part of the presentation today. And before we move into the content, the audience, you are all on mute today in order to ensure the best audio quality. But please feel free to send us questions during the presentation via the Q&A function, so not via the chat, please. And we will provide a link to the recording of this webinar and a link to download the presentation after this webinar, a few days after. So you can click down here to open Q&A, you type your question, you send it off. And now a brief overview of today's agenda. After our webinar, you will have a better overview of the EU reporting requirements. And as you know, they are changing somewhat as well. So, and you will know more about the details about CSRD compliance, its governance, data, and strategic planning. You will have a better overview of how to unlock strategic value of sustainability reporting. And we will discuss any questions you may have. And lastly, you will get to know also about services that Leadership and Sustainability offers regarding CSRD and ESRS compliance and other sustainability topics. We will also have one example. So we have selected one brand that has most recently reported according to CSRD and ESRS, and we will also show you some elements of their report. So looking forward to that as well. And now I will hand over to Sophia for the first parts of this webinar. Sophia, please.
Yes, thank you, Karin. Hello also from my side. Nice to see so many participants. And yeah, thank you, Karin, for the first introduction. So let's start with how to navigate the EU reporting requirements. And in this first section, I want to talk about the omnibus regulation updates and the key impacts of the CSRD. So who is affected and when the requirements will apply, as well as how to prepare for the requirements. So first of all, let's have a look at the ESRS. What are the ESRS? Since January 2024, the ESRS have become a key pillar of sustainability reporting in Europe. So ESRS stand for European Sustainability Reporting Standards. And with the implementation of the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the adoption of ESRS standards has become mandatory for many companies within the scope of CSRD. And this implementation marked also a significant milestone in the journey towards standardized ESG reporting. And the ESRS frameworks also aim to provide a transparent, accurate, and comparable view of companies' ESG, environmental, social, and governance impacts, risks, and opportunities. And the ESRS were developed by the European Financial Advisory Group, the EFRAG group, together also with the Committee of the European Commission and the European Environment Agency. And the ESRS standards align with existing international reporting recommendations and EU frameworks, and also ensure interoperability with initiatives such as the EU Green Deal and also the Sustainable Finance Framework. And then on the next slide, you can see the sector agnostic component of the ESRS that are divided into two types of standards, the cross-cutting standards and the topical ones. And here the two cross-cutting standards are the general requirements for ESRS 1 and the general disclosures for ESRS 2. And then below you see the sector-agnostic topical standards that are structured in 3 pillars: the environment, social, and governance standards. The environment standards can be divided into 4 more subtopical ESRS and the social into 4. The governance one consists only of 1 ESRS. There are also other ESRS like the LSME ESRS, which are important for listed SMEs, small banks, or captive insurers. And now, how to report under the ESRS. So first, it is about identifying what sustainability topics are relevant to you and your business model. And you have a long list of these ESRS topics that need to be assessed. And then you go from a long list to a short list that is specific for your organization. And to get there, you need to consult with your different stakeholders, for example, through interviews. And this process will also be reported later than in the sustainability report. And through this process, you conduct a double materiality assessment where you identify the most material topics for your company. And when you have decided on the most material topics, you need to align them with the ESRS and also gather the relevant data for the disclosure requirements. Just as a brief overview of the double materiality and the concept as a whole, that provides criteria for the determination of whether a sustainability topic or information must be included in the sustainability report. So the double materiality is the union of the impact materiality and the financial materiality. As you see here, the impact materiality refers to an inside-out perspective and looks at what impact a company has with its activities on a specific sustainability topic. And then the financial materiality refers to an outside-in perspective and looks at a company's financial performance or development and how this is impacted by a sustainability topic. So a company's impact on the climate can also be financial material. And in a corporate group, for example, some sustainability matters might not be significant when assessed at the level of individual subsidiaries. But when you then look at the aggregated view across several subsidiaries, they become material at the group level as well. And for more detailed information here on the materiality assessment, we have also included here the link to a previous webinar that we just had, where you can dive deeper into the requirements of the double materiality assessment. Then, as I said, I would also like to talk a little bit about the omnibus regulation. I'm sure you have heard about that. So on the 26th of February 2025, the European Commission has introduced a new proposal to simplify the regulations, the sustainability regulations in the European Union. And here, the next step now is to review and amend the proposal. This will be done by the Parliament and the Council. But here it is also important to note that the timeline until the first decision is taken is quite unclear. And how long the negotiations between the Commission, the Parliament, and Council will take. And the estimates say around 6 months until the first decision is published. And now on the second part of the slide, you see the comparison of the different requirements that are included in the CSRD currently and the omnibus regulation proposal. So the first topic here is the company size that would be changed. At the moment, the CSRD applies to firms with 250 or more than 250 employees and more than 40 million of revenue. And in the omnibus regulation, the proposal is that companies with more than 1,000 employees and exceeding one of the following thresholds, so one of the 50 million in revenue or the 25 million in balance sheet, should report under CSRD. And therefore, many companies would not be affected anymore. So the number of affected companies would shrink to 10,000 affected companies. But the assurance will stay here as well. Under the CSRD, it was the plan to enforce reasonable level of assurance, and in the omnibus, it is proposed to only have limited assurance. The timeline overall is proposed to be postponed by 2 years for the companies that were not already subject to the requirements. So for the second wave of companies that were required to report under CSRD. Important to note is here as well that the double materiality will remain. So it is still important also under the omnibus proposal. And as the last topic here that we have, which we compared, the CSRD includes sector agnostic as well as sector specific standards, but the omnibus limits that to only sector agnostic standards. And yeah, the overview highlights that the omnibus proposal narrows the overall scope of the companies that need to report and also the data point scope compared to the CSRD. And now just for your overview to better understand how the whole legislative process of the omnibus regulation will look like now. First of all, I have already told you that the legislative proposal has been made by the European Commission and is now reviewed by the Parliament and the Council. This will happen with trilogue negotiations where the Commission, the Parliament and the Council will discuss together. And for this, there is no fixed deadline for this process. But when a political agreement is achieved, there are 2 options. The first option would be that the Parliament approves the proposal without any amendments, and also the Council would adopt the proposal without any amendments. And then the law would be adopted. And the second option here then is if the European Parliament wants to make amendments to the proposal and also the Council adopts the amendments of the European Parliament, there would be a second and a third discussion and reading to review the proposed law. And either there is then an agreement on the law or it is rejected. So as you can see from the whole process, it is quite complex and will take some time until all those steps will be finalized. And therefore, yeah, it is also important to note that the omnibus is just a proposal at the moment. Now, some insights from the first discussion in the European Parliament. Of course, there have been controversial issues that have been discussed that were, for example, the threshold value of companies, if it should be lowered, then if it is enough to reduce the reporting obligations as proposed, or if a completely new approach is needed. And here different concerns were, for example, the timing. Of course, that first movers that had to publish their first sustainability report this year already would be penalized, and also the costs, the financial burdens to companies that would be lowered, of course, when the omnibus proposal is adopted. And then, of course, also the focus on SMEs and sustainability versus economy, so that the long-term competitiveness of the European Union can be sustained. I have inserted the link here to the debate if anyone is interested in the exact discussion that has happened, then please click on the link and yeah, watch the video. Then how to move forward. The omnibus is just a legislative proposal, as I already said, so meaning that there are changes possible. However, I also said that double materiality will remain, ensuring that companies assess both financial and societal impacts. And also the key uncertainties here include the timelines and the content that remain unclear, meaning that amendments to this text are still possible. Also, after the law is adopted as an EU law, the member states will have 12 months of an implementation period once the law is finalized. So they will even be a longer timeline until it is enforced in the member states. Here we suggest that businesses should monitor the updates and also prepare for compliance to stay ahead. Also, to ensure compliance at the moment with the existing law and explore alternative options in case the omnibus proposal is adopted as proposed. Also, for companies that are not within the scope then anymore, think about how you would want to report or if you want to report it. Then we also want to highlight the benefits that stay. First of all, the reputation enhancement here for investor and stakeholder expectations. By aligning with the CSRD, companies, of course, demonstrate their commitment to sustainability, even if they fall out of the scope of the CSRD. They can improve their brand image and attract, of course, also environmental conscious consumers and investors if they report in alignment with the CSRD. The second point that we want to highlight is here the competitive advantage. Through transparent reporting, you can reduce the risks of non-compliance penalties and also position your company to better manage ESG risks. The third point would be here the long-term value creation. By embracing sustainability, you can drive innovation, also operational efficiencies and new business opportunities, and of course, enhance your long-term strategic value here as well. And the fourth point would be the investor and business partner confidence. Through a strong sustainability reporting that is aligned with CSRD, you can, of course, also attract capital from investors focused on ESG factors and, yes, improve your business relationships with different suppliers and business partners. That was it from my side, and I would like to hand over to Karin again.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And I will then now talk about the CSRD compliance and how to manage the process of reporting. And as I said, I also have one case study for you. So what are the steps? So this slide will show you an overview of the different steps in the reporting. So you first generate an overview of your data points to be collected. You have to ensure understanding of the CSRD requirements, and there are quite a few, as we know, define responsibilities and contact persons, and then also identify the data sources and make them accessible. So you need to begin measuring early enough if these are quantitative data, for example, that you would like to present. And then the data collection and quality assurance, and the using the data collection and requirement fulfillment for overall business strategy improvement, and finally consolidate data and create the report. And now I will go a bit more into detail for each and every step here. So for step one, you will generate an overview of the data points to be collected, and in step two, to ensure understanding of the CSRD requirements. And here your actions are the double materiality assessment, first of all, as a key basis for all next steps. And you will know many of you have already conducted some sort of materiality assessments even before the CSRD and the ESRS. And why was that? Well, of course, because you need to know where you are today in order to be able to define your strategy moving forward. So before you start the development of a new sustainability strategy, you would then have conducted some sort of an assessment, making sure that you understand what your current situation is. And we at Leadership and Sustainability, we have conducted these type of assessments actually for 20 years by now, always looking along the value chain and looking at impacts, risks, and opportunities. So the method is really well aligned with what CSRD asks us for. So the double materiality assessment is really an important foundation for everything you do in the sustainability area. Then you also need to ensure that your other departments next to the sustainability team are onboarded. And I believe that many of you are already on that road or on that path to engage all your different business functions into the sustainability work. And that is really important because in a central team, you can only do so much. But you need your business partners. You need basically all the representatives from your value chain to be engaged in your sustainability work in order to be successful. And then you should, of course, also involve management and highlight the importance with key possessions. So you need to have your management on board, your top management on board, and they should support you. They should become ambassadors for sustainability as well, because that will help you in the central team, or if you are sitting now within a specific business functions, your top management can help you a lot by paving the way forward for you. And then even if the omnibus might be approved and roll out, you can still use the CSRD structure as a helpful tool to level up your sustainability efforts. Even if you are not reporting against all the data points, you can select the ones that make sense for you and work on them. And of course, then in that case, you would start with those that you have defined as material and which are most valuable for your business and your sustainability activities. So the goal here is to provide an overview of the complete list of data points to be collected and promote the understanding within the organization. And of course, if Omnibus doesn't apply to you, you need to report on all the data points that relate to material topics for you. And now we have here also this a bit blurry perhaps, but I will explain how it works in order to understand if a topic should be covered or should be included in your reporting. So following the materiality assessment, your company must report on both the process used to determine materiality and the outcome of this assessment. And this involves several key elements. So the description of the materiality assessment process, and the company must explain the processes it used to identify and assess material impacts, risks, and opportunities, the IROs. This includes detailing how the materiality of various issues was determined, particularly when aggregation across subsidiaries or even disaggregation for specific subsidiaries was involved. And then for the material impacts, risks, and opportunities, the company needs to report on the material impacts, risks, and opportunities that were identified and how these interact with the group's overall strategy and business model. And so this is the opportunity also for you in the sustainability department, because you actually have a good reason here to engage again with your management team and make sure that what you are doing in the sustainability area is connected to your overall business strategy and business model. You don't want to have a sustainability work that is not aligned with your business model, because then you will always have a lot of friction between departments and between the sustainability department or the sustainability strategy and your overall company strategy. And so this means that you are tying the materiality findings directly to the strategic decisions and directions of the company. And I think this is the first, because even many really advanced companies, they have not yet gotten there to really connect the sustainability work with the overall business strategy. And then you will have a disclosure of material information and determine what that is. So you should disclose how you determined which information is material, and this should be included in your sustainability statement, i.e. your report. This includes specifying the thresholds and criteria used in the materiality assessment. So for example, if you have used a scale 1 to 5 for all your impacts, risks, and opportunities, you should then be clear about what was my threshold. Just a second, excuse me. Excuse me, what was my threshold? Was it a 3 and above? Was it a 4 and above? And why did I select those thresholds? So for the topics that are material, you look at what needs to be further disclosed. If a sustainability topic is material and covered by the ESRS, you always have to disclose on the governance, how are impacts, risks, and opportunities managed at a governance level, the strategy, the strategic interaction with impacts, risks, and opportunities, and how they interact with the strategy and business model, the targets, the measurable outcome-oriented targets. And if there is nothing in place yet, you need to report how you are going to fill this gap. So it's not expected by you to have already everything in place and have it figured out. You can still say that, okay, in this for this topic in this area, I am actually working on a plan and will publish a plan by then or then. And then the relevant metrics also need to be disclosed. And to determine if a metric is relevant for you, you need, of course, again, to conduct your materiality assessment. The climate change standard, ESRS E1, is more stringent in its application. Companies may generally choose to omit information about the other standards without providing explanation. And of course, if you have deemed the topic to be not material. But with the climate change, that's the only ESG topic where even if a reporting company determines that the matter is not material, it must include a detailed explanation describing how and why it has reached that conclusion and didn't include it in its reporting. So a lot of details. And now one more piece of detail. So Sophia already mentioned EFRAG, and they have released an Excel tool listing all the disclosure requirements from the sector agnostic ESRS set 1. And this list helps in preparing the first sustainability statements under ESRS. It includes 161 mandatory data points and 602 data points that are subject to the results of the materiality assessment. And so the list of ESRS data points has been prepared by adopting the same methodology as the one used for the development of the ESRS digital taxonomy in order to also ensure consistency. But there are some differences in the detailed approaches between those methods. And so here you see just a screenshot. Obviously, it's not possible to read this, but you can see how this works. You have for the ESRS E1, E2, etc. You have the detailed list of data points. And then you can, of course, work in this Excel table and add columns and whatever you need in order to define which data points you actually want to report on. So those were the steps 1 and 2, and let me go to step 3. And here we are talking about defining responsibilities and contact persons. So your action is to designate contact persons in each department involved who will then be responsible for the data collection, and also to include timelines, milestones, and of course offer ongoing support. So I always say that in the central department, if you are responsible to coordinate your entire report, you always need to build the bridge to your different business functions and make sure that they have what they need in order to be able to support you with the reporting. And over time, they will also, of course, develop their own competence and knowledge in order to drive their different parts of the strategies more and more independently. But in the meantime, it's our task in the central team to try to speak their language and not expect them that they always understand everything we talk about related to sustainability, but make sure that we can talk their language and build that bridge to them. So the goal here is to define clear responsibilities in order to coordinate the data collection process. Okay, step 4, this is about identifying data sources and make them accessible. So step 5, that is the data collection and the quality assurance. And here the action is to decide on data collection and management tools. So you can use your own Excel tool, then probably starting with the EFRAG Excel tool, or you can also use a software solution. So there are actually many software solutions out there on the market that have specialized in the CSRD, ESRS reporting. They have all the data points already mapped into their software, and so they are ready to use, let's say, of course, to a specific price. But these are the possibilities you have. At the beginning, it may be easier to start with an Excel table because you have perhaps more flexibility there, and over time then move over to a software tool. It's really up to you to decide by yourself on how to do that. We would be happy to support you with a selection of a software tool if you are interested. We have quite a lot of contacts in this area and have some good ideas about how to select the best software tool. But then, of course, also, and for those of you who are engaged with the HIG-FEM, you know that the quality review and assurance is a really important area, especially when we are talking about quantitative data. We really want the quantitative data to be correct once we report on it. And not only because of the reporting, but also because you need to have correct data in order to make sure that you can drive your strategy and that you can reach your targets as well. So therefore, we think quality review is really important, and that always these two pair of eyes, not only one pair of eyes when you are doing the quantitative reporting and any calculations, it's really helpful. And here, the goal is to create a complete and consistent report that includes, of course, all relevant information and meets, basically that you have the accessibility available and that the data is really useful, with the overall goal of having a good report in the end. And here I have now an example for you from the ESRS E1 for climate change. And so the first disclosure requirements include a transition plan for climate change mitigation to achieve climate neutrality by 2050 and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees as per the Paris Agreement. And this can be done as follows. So the foundation of your climate transition plan is a comprehensive CO2 footprint. And the corporate carbon footprint, including scope 1, 2, and 3, must be in accordance with the greenhouse gas protocol. And then you develop a decarbonization roadmap, including all 3 scopes. I have seen some decarbonization roadmaps that have like 5-year gaps. So the plan is made with a 5-year, and then the next 5-year, and then the next 5-year perspective. But obviously, we don't have that much time to wait for 5 years until we see if we are really working towards the goal we have set ourselves. You need at least annual milestones and perhaps even monthly milestones in some cases, if it's possible, in order to make sure that you will actually reach your targets. We all know many brands have set science-based targets. They are also asking their supply chain partners to now even implement science-based targets or to set targets by themselves. And we don't have that much time left in order to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees. And so it's really, really important that you have a very tight, very, very tight monitoring of your decarbonization roadmap. And then, yes, you set your targets aligned with a 1.5 degree reduction. You align your climate transition plan also with the business model, and you develop KPIs and get approval by the board of directors. And if you have a supervisory board, also from that board, and then you integrate it into your governance approach. So this is, of course, a very high level approach to this, but it is important. The measurements, the very regular and intense monitoring is really, really important here. And now we come to step 6. So use the data collection and requirement fulfillment for overall business strategy improvement, and the action here is to analyze how the collected data can contribute to overall business objectives as well. Identify gaps or opportunities for strategic improvement based on the data insights. Adjust and refine the business strategy by incorporating data-driven insights. Establish a monitoring system to track the effectiveness of the refined strategy, and regularly review data and requirements to ensure ongoing alignment and make necessary adjustments. And we see that with the clients we are working with, to just not only to develop your materiality assessment, to define your strategy, but also in order to start your implementation work, there's quite a lot of paperwork to do, to make sure that you have a system that will really work over the next few months and over the next few years, and that you have your reporting in place, that you have your organization set up accordingly, have your team really focusing on this. And here, the goal is to improve the overall business strategy by utilizing data collection and fulfilling CSRD key requirements, ensuring that the strategy is continuously aligned with business needs and driven by actionable insights as well. Now we come to step 7, and here we have the data consolidation and report creation. So this is the last step. And here, consolidate all the data collection from the various departments and prepare it in a standardized format to create the report in accordance with the CSRD requirements. And the goal is, of course, to create a complete and consistent report that includes all relevant information and meets the requirements of the CSRD. And now, just as a summary and wrap up of that part, I will soon also come to the example that I wanted to give you. So in order to report according to CSRD and ESRS, first the ESRS structure has to be understood. And thereafter, the double materiality assessment is of importance. The relevant disclosure requirements need to be identified. The internal responsibility for data collection has to be determined, and collecting the data for the relevant data points, and then prepare the report, and also the assurance that is needed for the report. And now let me come to the value of sustainability reporting. And I wish to give you an example from the Adidas CSRD report, but let me first give you an overview. So here, there is a website available where sustainability reports according to CSRD can be found. You can see the link here, as well as a selection of consumer goods companies that have reported. So you can see you can select countries, you can select the sector, you can even search for a specific company if you already want to know about a specific company that you know about. And here now you can see the selection for consumer goods that we received a few days ago when we did this search. But now I would like to give you some highlights from the Adidas report. So Adidas has published its CSRD report. You can click on this link here and then you will find it available here. So on this slide here, I just give you a really overview of the different elements of the report. And then on the following slides, I will give you some examples. So you can find the report here. And the report has some strong language at the very beginning. And after that, it is very formal and detailed, and really according to the ESRS, but with some illustrations and quite a lot of graphics related to the different material topics, which makes it easier to read despite the length, 200 pages plus minus, and a lot of degree and a high degree of details. And we will have a look at the list of content for the sustainability statement on one of the following slides. So you will see that. And then there is a list of the material topics that are available in the report, of course. And the process for the materiality assessment is described at a high level and later in the report at a very detailed process level, without giving away too much of the actual methodology and how the different elements are linked together. However, for each IRO, impact, risk and opportunity topic, there is a detailed description of the methodology, and I have a screenshot for you a bit later. And after that, Adidas presents its IROs, the impacts, risks, and opportunities, one by one. There are also data tables available separately. And finally, and without here going into more details about other parts of the report, there is also a limited assurance statement from the auditor. And so these are the first pages of the report, very, very visual, of course, a typical sporting goods companies with a lot of great photos at the beginning. And then we have the list of content. And here, this is now for the sustainability portions. I'm not talking about the rest of the report, about the financial report or so. This is just the sustainability report according to the CSRD ESRS. And of course, it is an integrated part in the annual report of Adidas. And so this is the list of content for the sustainability statement. And as you can see, Adidas has decided to follow the ESRS structure to 100%. It's an exact structure of that. And then here are the general disclosures and the first set of material topics. And this is now an example of how Adidas actually, I think, have succeeded really well in adding visual elements into the report. Into that long, very detailed report, there are a lot of visual elements and nice photos. So here you can see now the first set of material topics, the first half of them, climate change, own workforce, business conduct, etc. And then on this slide, you can see the rest of them. All topics according to ESRS are also defined as material for Adidas, and we're not surprised about that, of course. And then there is also a description of the process for the double materiality assessment. You can see this is quite high level, showing with preparation, workshops, documentation, and then approval and audit. So this is quite high level, but if we take here one example about climate change, and I don't expect you to read all the details here, but this is now a much more detailed description of the topic of climate change and the double materiality assessment process. So here, for example, process to identify and assess the impacts. So there is a lot of more detailed information about each and every topic. And here is just one screenshot from the climate change section. And there is, of course, in the climate change section, there is much more content about climate change than what is seen on this screenshot. But this is, again, an example of how Adidas has structured the report and how they are also using visual elements and photos in the report to make it more attractive, let's say, for the reader. And Adidas has also chosen to publish all quantitative data points in an Excel table format. You can download that Excel table, and there is for each and every topic or for each and every table, there is one tab in that Excel table. And here's just one example related to climate change. And finally, we have a screenshot from the assurance statement. So this was all I wanted to present to you about Adidas, but I can really recommend to go and have a look at that report. It has a very, very clear structure. It's very easy to follow. And of course, you can spend many, many hours reading all the details if you wish to do so. And now I wish to wrap up. So what is the business value of sustainability reporting? Well, you have reputation enhancement. By aligning with CSRD, companies demonstrate their commitment to sustainability, improving brand image and attracting environmentally conscious consumers and investors. And risk management. Transparent reporting reduces the risk of non-compliance penalties and positions the company to better manage ESG risks. Long-term value creation. And then also the investor and partner, business partner confidence. And I have 2 slides about our services, and then I want to jump into the Q&A session. So first of all, here is a representation of our strategy services. We conduct a lot of materiality assessment. We support brands and manufacturing companies with sustainability strategies, with implementation, with carbon footprinting, with trainings, but also, for example, with BRM verification, with the brand and retail module verification. And then our supply chain services, here you can see also we are working a lot with the cascade services, so for HIG, FEM and SOCP, but also with ZTHC. But we also support brands and manufacturing companies to develop their own supply chain management programs, writing handbooks, for example, writing guidance for suppliers. And you can see also a list of all the countries where we have local teams available. I also want to invite you to join our HIG FEM e-learning training. This is a training that you can conduct by your own pace. It is a priced training. It's not a free training, but you can also use this training to respond to the HIG FEM, the corresponding question about joining HIG FEM trainings. I will show you our contact details here. And you are most welcome, of course, to contact us. Or you can also go and visit our website and have a look at what we are offering. But we will also send you this presentation, and we will send you the recording within a few days, probably at the beginning of next week at some time. Yes. We have also one question here. Hi there. For human rights related risks, specifically in the S2, have you got any examples of effective data points? What do you mean by effective data points? Question back to you. I guess we might need to respond to that question offline. Thanks. Any other question? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And we have another webinar coming up next week, next Wednesday, about facility data management. So this is for brands who are interested in learning more about the data management, but also for factories and facility representatives who are completing the facility environmental module. We will be talking a lot about data quality and the need for data quality, and what the requirements are regarding data quality management systems, and we will give some examples of that and give a demo as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and if you are interested in joining, you can find information about that on our website as well, on the blog, or we have also a title on the website, trainings and webinars, where it is listed. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. All right. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.